Good afternoon, everybody. Marty Richards with Richland Center Tourism here with our January winter episode of Why Do We Call It That? So, yep, we are joining you here in January. Still, the Greater Richland area is a beautiful area, and today we are coming to you from beautiful downtown Maryville. You haven't heard of Maryville? How about Marysville? Well, there's some dispute. Newspaper articles said it was both Maryville and Marysville, so we're not really sure. But to cut to the quick of it, essentially our story today starts in 1856. A young fella by the name of J.J. Shoemaker shows up. The area, if you remember, 1850 was the founding of Richland County. It was, then formally formed with a government, and it was quickly growing. A lot of agriculture, lumber interests, things like that. And J.J. Shoemaker shows up on the scene in 1856 and says, "Hey, I'm going to plat this city. It's going to be a big city." And he gets some unwitting locals to help him with it. They actually invest some money in with it. And just 1 mile north of Bloom City in sections 22 and 23, he plats out a city to be the size bigger than Richland Center. There would have been 24 city blocks. So he plats it out, gets everything set up, immediately goes back to Richland Center, rents a storefront, then travels to Chicago, gets a $10,000 stock certificate or line of credit to then get merchandise to put in his store. He gets his mercantile set up. He's starting to do some sales there. He then also goes and purchases the first ever steam-operated sawmill for Richland County. Gets it. He tells the people that he's buying it that it's going to Maryville or Marysville, whatever you prefer, and brings it to Richland County. He does not bring it all the way to Maryville. For whatever reason, in his mind, he takes it to Rockbridge, sets it up, it gets going, it's very fast. It's showing that the previous saws and sawmills up to that time are quite inefficient, and it is outperforming the other sawmills 3-1. He's been manufacturing, or at that time, cutting post, building materials, lumber, lath. And so he's really showing, I guess, to some extent to the locals that he is of value and is serious in his business prospects. In the course of all of this, he's been telling the locals, that he's sailed the 7 seas. He's been to every port in the world, been around the world a couple times. Obviously a man of great wealth. He appears to have great wealth anyway, throwing money all over the place. He stocks his business, so keep in mind, he's got quite a few irons in the fire here. He's got the sawmill, which is going great guns. He's got his mercantile store in Richland Center that when he stocked it, they claim it was stocked without any space on the counters, in the storeroom, out on the floor. It was full of merchandise. And he's telling the locals how great the sales of lots are going in Maryville at this point. Well, everything's going great. It's 1856. He showed up in July of 1856. By the winter hits, and it was a particularly harsh winter. Records show, or the comments from people show in the newspaper articles at that time, that it was the strongest winter they had experienced since they started to settle this area. Well, Mr. Shoemaker goes to the locals and says, "Hey, the people that I bought the sawmill from are struggling to get through the winter, so I need to pay them for the sawmill. How about if I sell you shares in my business that's going so well?" And so the plain, nice, kind people of the area say, "Why not?" So they start to buy shares in his business. And one other note that you should know, in his store that he's selling his merchandise out of, he only takes cash. There are no lines of credit. So he's been collecting cash from the store. He also now is selling shares in cash to his businesses. And he's supposedly selling a whole bunch of lots for his new city of Maryville. Well, within 6 months of him arriving on the scene, he now vanishes overnight, literally overnight. And local reports have it that he had to have had tens of thousands of dollars in his possession in cash, because he never paid for the sawmill. He just took the locals' money and gave them worthless shares of the shares in his business. He also sold all the merchandise out of his store and took that cash. And Maryville, the city, literally, they had only sold 2 lots. Ultimately, there was 1 house built. A log home was built that no longer exists today. And within a few years, the land that the city of Maryville was platted on, that was sold at sheriff's auction for $1,500. So the city of Maryville never came to be. We can thank J.J. Shoemaker for our original scheme in Richland County. Kind of beware. But that is why we call it Maryville or Marysville. And just a heads up, for many local residents, you may never have even known it existed. It was news to me as well. But just a little interesting tidbit, here in Bloom Township, just a mile north of Bloom City, that is why we call it Marysville. So thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please share it on your Facebook page. If there's a location or an item you'd like us to do a video about, I encourage you to go check out YouTube. Quite frequently, you'll find we've already done a video about that location. So just go ahead onto our YouTube channel, Richland Center Tourism. Okay? Hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for joining us. For Richland Center Tourism, I'm Marty Richards. Take care, everybody.